Hi, I hope everybody's doing great today. Well, I was going to talk about the Antichrist system, why I believe that it's already in place. I think that a strong delusion is required to control the masses, and the beginning of this delusion is already at work in our country. Irrational fears have sown the seeds for a mass psychosis that's already enslaving a lot of people. You may be shocked at how obvious this is once it's brought into the light. Stay tuned. You're going to be very surprised at how easy it's going to be for a one world government to seduce billions of people. Do you remember the formula that allowed Hitler to control an entire nation and the conditions that allowed 68 million people to follow this madman into war? Crisis after crisis, coupled with manufactured fear, are a very powerful force if they're in the hands of an evil person. Economic collapse was blamed on the Jews, and propaganda and lies was made up, and it was widely taught in schools and plastered all over the public square. Religious people were persecuted. God was taken out of their society. He was replaced by demagogues. Hitler was not the Antichrist, but he was an Antichrist. The spirit of Antichrist was definitely in him. History of the First World War and the entire worldview of Germany's was changed. Political rivals were demonized, they were killed. A lot of people were drawn into Hitler's alternate reality. His idea was to tell a lie, make it big, and keep repeating it. And eventually this proved to be very successful, as many people believed his lies and his seductions. Conditions in today's world are very much like they were then, but this time I believe they're actually a little worse. The World Economic Forum leaders operate on the same mantra as Hitler did, and do not let a good crisis go to waste. And they've even said as such. And what they mean is the pandemic can be a springboard to the changes that they want to exact and the control that they want to impose on people. And they have actually said as much. They call this the Great Reset. Our own government has taken the pandemic and exaggerated its effect to drive a narrative of fear. Things get worse from there. Because of the policies that were implemented during the big panic, now we have severe economic problems which have driven prices of living way up. We have supply chain issues, and every problem seems to make the last a little bit worse. Fear and anxiety have become very prevalent in our day and age. People want all these things to end, and so to do so, they've become more obedient to the government because they claim to have answers. But in reality, what the government wants is more control. And this has helped the government to gain a lot of control, but what they want now is more buy-in. And one of the most dangerous ideas that exists in our culture is the idea that truth is not absolute. There's a prevailing thought that's been promoted that people can have their own truth. A truth that is their own making. And people will say, I'm living my truth. Kids today can go to school and bark like a dog. Instead of being corrected, the school will put out a litter box. This is actually happening in places. Today, a 5-year-old boy can identify as a girl, and their doctor will begin planning a transition. No questions asked. We pretend men can get pregnant to pander to people that have mental illness. In fact, mental illness in our society today seems to be very trendy, and every other person on TikTok either has one or is pretending that they do. In our new Orwellian society, ignorance is strength. Opposition to ignorance is denounced and labeled as intolerance. Another necessity of totalitarian rule is surveillance. We've given up all of our privacy, and we've done so very willingly. We carry cell phones that track our location at all times. We go to websites that use algorithms to hack our brain. Our computer knows what we like, it knows our interest, it knows what we spend money on. Everything that we click on tells the computer one more thing about us. It uses our history to predict our future with very great accuracy. TikTok knows our kids better than we do, and all the information is readily available to the totalitarian Chinese government. Crises of disease and war and famine will give global elites everything they need to control the masses in the Antichrist world. Where is the church in all this? Well, most of them are just believing the lie and conforming to the ways of the world, and they are condoning the sins of the world. Lukewarm leaders of megachurches set the agenda for many of Americans' Christians, and they teach that compromise with the world is the best way for us to live. So a world government, a world religion are already in place, and all they're waiting for is a leader to guide them and to deceive them. This strong delusion will allow people to passively be led like sheep to the slaughter. Christians need to embrace truth, the only truth, the truth that Jesus taught. He said, "I'm the way, the truth, and the life, and no man comes unto the Father but by me." You can't get there by the government, you can't get there by society, and you can't get there by your own wisdom. So, people need to get out of their fear and their anxiety. They need to get these things under control, and if they don't, they're going to be caught up in the snare. Know this, that God is in control, and the rapture is definitely imminent, so don't be left behind. So I hope you guys have a good day, and I will talk to you in a while.